So what you have to have is the capability to turn that generator on quickly. And the only thing that's practical right now, well, a couple things. If you had a hydro dam that had a head of water on it, and you were only using some of the water, you could open the gate and use more water. Now, while the dam here, you could do that with, but as it is, it only runs about, I forgot the exact number, 20, 25%. Yeah, 40 megawatts, but that's when it's running full too. There's not enough water in the Connecticut River watershed to run it full time, so it runs maybe 30, 40% of the time. But you could use hydro, but people tend to want to use natural gas. And they use what's called a peaker. It is a natural gas turbine that is able to start up really fast and has a rather low cost comparatively per capita. The other thing you need are lulls to deal with our lulls in the wind. And in that case, we need that many megawatts of standby natural gas capacity. So what's that? 770 or so altogether. If you could buy natural gas generators for $3 a watt, maybe, that would be another 3 or 4 billion. And of course, you'd be burning natural gas when you do that. So this is, of course, the reason T. Boone Pickens want to use more wind power. For every windmill that's installed, you need a natural gas backup system for each and every, because it only runs 30% of the time. So the whole system, it's very unrealistic. It's not possible to do that. And Howard and Meredith put together a report that counters this report that they put together. Another thing that Meredith discovered is the old thing about follow the money. Well, how does the Vermont Conservation Law Foundation have enough money to pay all those lawyers and so on that want to shut down Vermont Yankee? This is their website right here. Vermont Yankee is leaking radiation into the groundwater in the Connecticut River. So they have a picture of that. Of course, that's not radioactive water. I just told you before, that's the water that comes from the river that cools the thing. But the implication of this headline is that it's radioactive water. That's what it says. Okay. So what do they do? Well, they have a subsidiary. What is it called? AES. It's Conservation Law Foundation Ventures. It's a non-profit.
The Conservation Venture Fund or something.
Yeah, there it is. CLF Ventures, a non-profit affiliate, I'm quoting on the paper here, assisted AES Corporation in New Hampshire with the siting of a big combined cycle natural gas-fired power plant. Well, that's kind of interesting. So they're in the consulting business, paid for by the fossil fuel industry, which is a big interest in shutting down the nukes. Okay, so that's kind of how this whole thing works in the background. Notice that they weren't going to, of course, this is going to create more CO2 emissions because it's going to be burning fossil fuels, but not in Vermont. That'll be in New Hampshire. All right, so that's just a little hint about kind of what's going on in the back. This is just a picture of their website. These are all the little deals you can get from Vermont, the state of Vermont, to try to cut down your costs of energy. So apply for this grant or that sales tax incentive, or there's lots of programs that the legislature has put into effect thinking that they're going to help solve the energy crisis. But it costs money. Now, we already subsidize a lot of wind and solar. Accelerated depreciation, investment tax credit, there's a production tax credit, there's a whole market in renewable energy credits. You get all that stuff, but that wasn't enough. So the state of Vermont had to guarantee that the price would be high enough that people would start building these things. So I had to encourage investors, so they guaranteed that anyone who built a windmill would be able to sell the power at 20 cents a kilowatt hour. Remember that energy is selling it at 5 cents. And if you had a PV solar system, it would be 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So you got a different number.
The state of Vermont has also a 30% tax credit on the part of the money that is not receiving the tax credit. Notice you have $100,
Yeah.
and they get the federal, there's 70 is left over, and the Vermont gives 30% of that 70 as a tax credit, only for business.
Okay. But it's a labyrinth of rules. Of course, the state of Vermont isn't going to actually pay the money out of the taxpayers' funds. They're going to require the utilities to pay that much money. The utilities, to get that much money, they have to increase the overall rates to all customers, including the ones who are fed by Vermont Yankee, in order to pay for this amount of money. Now, one of the problems is that this is so complicated, and you see people saying, oh, I can make money on this windmill in my backyard, and I can run a meter in reverse when I'm not home, and all that kind of stuff. But when they do their economic analysis, they've already factored into it all these subsidies, tax incentives, payments, whatever it is. And what we really ought to be looking at is return on society's investment, not the homeowner's investment or the utilities investment. It's the total investment, taxpayers' investment. That's what we ought to be looking at. The whole energy sector of the United States is about a $5 trillion market segment. All energy, not just electrical, the whole thing. That's a third of the $15 trillion GDP of the United States. It's a third. And if we really are thinking about raising the price of electricity in that sector from 5 cents to 30 cents, that's going to have a hell of an effect, pardon me, on productivity in the United States. Will this license get renewed? Hard to know. The NRC is the outfit that has the safety responsibility. So when people say, is it safe, Bob? It's kind of old and dilapidated. I said, you've been reading the papers. The NRC is the outfit that is supposed to do that. They have the training, the funding, the charter, the experience, the personnel, the routine inspections. They're there all the time. Energy, at one point, agreed with Vermont Public Utilities Commission at the time that they got a power upgrade, that they would let the PUC participate in the decision about whether to extend the license. So they may have made a management error, I don't know. The Vermont legislature gave itself the approval authority. They took it away from the PUC by law. So now they may or may not have that authority because they took over a contract right that they didn't have a right to. And the Vermont State Senate voted against extending the license, so here we are. So what's going to happen? It's going to go to court. It's got to go to court.